Andromedans, a very old species or race with very few known variants. They are mainly one race and culture only, even though there are separate factions. They are not of Lyrian origin. They have more in common with the Arcturian, Diezlintiplex, Devonian, and Coryndian races. They are also related to the Blue Pleiadian race, Blue Pleiadian or Celestes. According to what they themselves explain, several millions years ago, during the primitive era of their spiritual evolution, they were in a similar position as the humans are in today. They ended up fighting among themselves for lack of ethics and morals, and that resulted in the destruction of their own planet. They had the time to get out of it on board of ships of their own manufacturing. By the very definition of timelines, it necessarily has to exist. But the Andromedans of today have no connection or communication with that timeline. They have total temporal capacity, and they have even used it with the humans, as Alex Collier testifies, as he was in contact with the Andromedans. Since the destruction of their planet, the Andromedans have no planet. It is a species and culture completely dependent on their space vessels. They are born, live, and die in them, having their own cycles and dynamics of reincarnation on board. Their ships are of three classes and shapes: the Grand Sphere or Biosphere base ships, with several millions of inhabitants in them. They are of great size. An example of a ship of this class is the terrestrial Moon, that was one of their ships in the past. It is of their manufacturing. The Biosphere smaller triangle ships that they use because they are agile and it is easy to move them from one place to another to assert their presence in some location. Those ships too are self-contained, also named biospheres. They contain several thousand inhabitants on board, and their regular size exceed 800 kilometers long. There is one in Earth orbit behind the Moon at this moment. Smaller agile vessels of various forms, predominantly of a disc shape. Their political structure is ancient and is called holographic political system due to its levels of councils, step councils, or also better known as the Andromedan holographic political system, most often used by almost all the progressive advanced races, including Taygeta. The belief systems based on the concept of karma, as it is known in the east of the earth, comes from the Andromedans. In the same manner, the Sanskrit language is the humanized form of Andromedan. On earth, this is recognized in some circles in the area, as they have the legend that Sanskrit comes from the stars. The Andromedans have influenced the earth for thousands of years, being that the most recognized Andromedan on earth is the god Shiva. Their social system is one of total equity, even though one can observe a strong tendency towards patriarchy. The human representative who has had most contact with the Andromedans is Mr. Alex Collier. I recommend to study his works as they relay the truth. The Andromedans have two genders, male and female, and the reproduction is sexual. When an Andromedan is born, it is always underwater to minimize the trauma. And then the offspring is given all the resources of the entire civilization so that their development is the best possible. They don't spare anything for their young, and they spend the major part of their lives dedicating themselves to studying and self-improvement. Physically, they are very slim, with a fragile appearance, between 2 and 3 meters tall, with an average of 240 centimeters, a little less for the women. The men are very aesthetic, and the women very beautiful. They do not have any kind of hair or body hair, neither males nor females alike. Their skin is sky or light blue, but there are variants. Longevity is said to be some 4,500 Earth years, but it is difficult to calculate because outside time is different and results impossible to make a true and credible calculation. When they die, it is by their own decision. It is never by illnesses, as they have already transcended this concept. It is not that they don't get sick, but that it is all solvable with the mind and with MedPod technology. They are very mental beings, logical. They are not temperamental, nor are they emotional. They have a lot of curiosity about the reactions of the emotional races, because it is very difficult for the Andromedans to understand them. This has caused friction between races more than once, including differences with the Taygetan race, as the latter is a very emotional race, even more so than the humans. Asks Robert, don't they wish to establish themselves on a planet? Are they nomads? They have to be great constructors of spaceships. It is a nomad race, if you could describe them as such. They are great spaceship constructors. They construct them with the help of their closest friends, with whom they have had a cordial relationship for millennia, the 3 Arcturian races. The Andromedan ships are constructed on or near the planet Pigdoia in the Boots region. It is under the control of the Diesliantiplex Arcturians. They can recall their past lives without problems, and their children, if they so decide, can pick up where they left off in their former life, but with a new body. It does not present problems for the offspring, nor are they classified as endangered. They do not want to settle on a planet because they would feel limited. They like to maintain their mobile interests by their own admission. They also insist that all planets that exist aren't theirs, and that settling on them causes karma, even if it is only inhabited by animals. The planet does not belong to them. With the high technology of the biosphere ships, they don't need a planet. They have everything inside. They feel more secure because inside the ships they have total control of everything that happens in them and with them. The Andromedans are obsessive with perfection and control. They are members of the Federation of the United Planets, of the Andromedan Council, and the Sphere Alliance. Their technology is equal or on par with ours, and living through the solar portal are mainly Andromedan and Arcturian. Since when are they there in the orbit? And what is their involvement in the liberation of the Earth? They now have been roaming around this area for about 12,500 years. But the large biosphere ship arrived to Earth orbit around 1952. Their involvement with Earth's liberation is mainly that of being advisors and of logistical support for the other races, thanks to their large ships. However, they also do observations and research work in the areas of terrestrial radiation, volcanology, and seismology, which then they share with the other races. How many ships do they have? And how many starseeds? The Andromedans have countless ships, countless large biosphere ships. They are among the races with most starseeds on Earth. Between a number of people with the same vision and level of consciousness, another world can be generated, another better society with a 5D mentality. This time referring to the real 5D, where you can live at peace with a scientific, moral, ethical, and conscious advancement in general, but still with problems created by a world still strongly based on duality, as would be Taiketa, for example. But what they sell you by ascension in all the New Age places, articles, and channels is a mental impossibility. This is only fulfilled in very high densities, but with characteristics that do not go hand in hand with their descriptions of their 5D, New Age, and Utopian. For example, still forming a family, with a man and a woman, having a job, money, economy, and all that is only a reflection of the current 3D. All that, from high densities, stops working. The concept of ascension, as they provide people with, also puts them in a very dangerous mindset and very convenient for the cabal. It is putting them into a waiting mentality, that they should not do anything, not be involved, because it is inevitable, quoting Dolores Cannon here. Doing nothing mentality amounts to falling prey to cabal manipulations that make them docile and easy to manage, obedient, without control over what they want as individuals or as a society. That is why I insist that it is an individual path, individual ascension, because it will begin from there. People with the same interests and points of view will form agreements that will be the basis for a new, more positive society. From another individual point of view, the ascension from 3D without an alliance between many people with the same thought or frequency necessarily implies